Hello out there, everybody, and welcome to the Smoke Break. Dan's talking about RPGs once again, so I am going to get started right quick. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that I think is very much underrepresented in the RPG community here on YouTube. This is something that when I started, this was something I was looking for, and I didn't really have. You know, a lot of the greats of the RPG community will continue to talk about immersion and making a solid, good character, someone who's a real person, or at least as close to a real person as you can get with characterization. And but rarely, never that I have found, have they really talked about where to start and actually creating that character that is so good. So I'm going to be going through. I actually typed up notes today. That's so weird. It might expedite the process, or it might make it longer, as I've already come up with ideas in advance. So I'm gonna jump right in. Oh, by the way, this is not a video going through the making of like a Pathfinder character, 3.5 character, AD&D character, Shadowrun character. It's not one of those videos. Those videos exist, and you can read the book and you'll find out, or whatever. This is not. I'm not going to be talking about how BAB works. I'm not going to be talking about how skill points work. None of that. We're talking about actually making the character, the part that actually matters. I mean, not that stats aren't important. It is still a game and not just a storytelling exercise. But so I'm going to get into it. So first is where do you start when you're making your character? And this is the hardest question. Most people, most good role players, and everyone that I know here on the RPG community start with a concept. You gotta get that good concept, and that's such a hard thing to just pull out of your ass, right? But a lot of times you will have a good concept, or at least something that you're thinking about playing, like something you want to play. Like, say for me, I wanted to play I want to play someone who's really like a ruckus, like douchebag. That's a good starting concept. I want to play a bully. I want to play the Flash Thompson of this game. I mean, that goes into something I'll talk about later, but playing like a bully, or if you want to play the bully, or you want to play a neurotic magic user, those are concepts, and those are things that you build upon. But for me, I find that a lot of times, and I used to have a kind of a problem with this, and I used to try as hard as I could to shy away from this, but I end up starting with class, because I've been playing a lot of Pathfinder lately. And a lot of the times when I'm making new characters for Pathfinder, it'll be like, well, this class, like, say I have to make, it's like, well, the summoner, I might give that a try. I've railed against it for a long time, but I might just try it out so I know what I'm talking about. So, starting with a class is not as bad as people suggest. Sometimes there's just a class you want to play. One day you might just be like, I want to try out the mechanics of a rogue, and then you think about the character beyond that. Why is that character a rogue? Why aren't they this? Why aren't they that? What sort of roguish deeds have they done? Why are they a fighter? Where did they get their military training? Why are they a barbarian? Why are they so mad all the time? Why were they raised in, class is a decent jumping off point, but the problem is classes now in Pathfinder and even in like D&D Next are so much less defined, which I think is a good thing because it means that you can just pick whatever mechanics you want and assign them to your character to make it better fit. But it does make classes a harder jumping off point than it used to be in, say, like AD&D, where your class very much was dictated by what stats you had ended up rolling, and it was easier. Classes were more defined. Druids had weird things like they couldn't be in cities for very long, and they had to be raised in the woods, and yada yada yada. They couldn't live in stone building. Oh no, they couldn't live in like engineered buildings. They had to live in wooden cabins and shit. It was really weird. So yeah, you can start with a class, you can start with a concept. Concept is the best. If you are starting up a new game and you have a concept, but then you also have a class that you want to play, if those two don't converge, I would say go with the concept, because it means that you're going to probably put out a stronger character overall in terms of roleplay. So that's my thoughts on that. And the third point of the where to start is copying characters that you like. We've all been there where we wanted to play like Ash from Evil Dead, or we wanted to play Conan, or God forbid Aragorn or Legolas or Cloud Strife. But copying characters that you like, it's I generally say don't do it, especially but at the same time don't do it. But at the same time, it might not be a bad idea. It's I would say rather than completely copying that character, sometimes it can be very good to find characters that you want to play like, and find several of those, and then watch all of their movies or their TV shows or whatever, and then sort of just distill your own thing from that. So, say in a game you really want to play like a sword and sorcery rogue, you might go watch Conan the Destroyer and like Hawk, and get that character out of those movies or TV shows or video games or whatever. So that can be okay, and I'll go into that later. So then the next, this is going to be as static. This is going to be as mechanicsy as it gets. But think about their physical form and characterization in order to pick your stats and skills. Think about, is this a big bulky dude? Is this somebody who's really really strong? Are they a nimble little mother ducker who likes to crawl around and sneaky sneak? Are they very smart? Are they very wise? Are they very charismatic? And those are the hardest to pick usually, to actually allocate stat points. Of course, you're going to be informed by whatever class you want, but I would generally say if you're starting with concept, roll up your character stats before you pick their class, because then you can, you could probably, you might look at the stats and be like, well, my character, he has these like innate abilities. He wouldn't naturally go for this path in life. It would be easier and more allocacious to him to do this, and that can give you a clear starting point. Or if he does decide to go the other way, the less optimal route, then you have to think about why in roleplay this super strong guy ends up being a wizard, or whatever. You gotta think about that, and I think that can be interesting, and it can lend to more interesting characters. Of course, the strong wizard can be a total bore. It can just be some dude playing a barbarian who can also cast like 5 spells. It's whatever. And they're gonna run around touting like, I'm so original. Nobody plays strong wizards. But still, I think it could be a good character if you give it the right flavor. So think about their physical form, and you gotta be specific. And you can, of course, you fine tune your stats as you go. And this goes for all games, because all games have something equivalent to stats or attribute points or whatever. You got your I forget what they all are for Shadowrun, but every game has their stats, kinda, and your physical and mental attributes. So think about those as they relate to your character. So that's where you get the bare minimum of your characterization. You get the idea of what their body looks like, what the inside of their brain looks like, or thinks like, or whatever, and you get the beginnings of their personality. And that's when you pick your stats. And, you can hold off on doing your skill points or your fine-tuning until later, but I find this is a good time, especially if you want but it's hard to do because you don't know exactly what skill points you want, but you can think about which skills your character would want. I think that's something good to do. And then number 3 on the list, and this is the most important, and the one that I think, this other stuff seems a little bit common sense, but this is really important, which is hone your roleplay, or hone their roleplay, however you want to phrase it. So hone their roleplay. You need to practice, you need to think about how they will act. You really do. This is something a lot of people, that's even if they start with a really cool concept, they haven't thought it through how they're going to bring that concept out in their roleplay. Sure, your character's a smart wizard, so of course they're going to do smart wizard things like read or, buy books. I don't know why the only intellectual pursuit I can come up with off the top of my head is reading, but you get the gist. Or if you're playing a barbarian who's a high constitution, of course they're going to drink, but you got to be more specific than that. You got to think more about what they will do and how their role play is going to come out in their actual everyday talking. One way that I really find useful is think about like 3 to 5 glaring personality traits that will come out in their everyday role play. Or everyday sounds kind of silly, but it'll come out in every single role play interaction people have with you. Off the top of my head, how gruff your character is, how they respond to things. You gotta get really into. You gotta come up with these traits. Things like maybe their character is sensitive about talking about children because they lost a child. So if that ever comes up in roleplay, you got it. You got it right there. Or they're sexist or something like that. Things that will very much inform the way that your character goes about living. Maybe they're a neat freak and they don't like to get mud on them. So, I mean, these are all very simple, but I think you get what I'm talking about. Think about 5 traits that are going to come out in your character. Are they boisterous? Do they like to lie? Do they like to brag? Do these things come out very, very often? Do they like to take trophies from things that they kill? I mean, there are things that are more glaring about that. Do they have a stutter? And these traits can be anything. One good one, and this you can start this at concept, is do they have any deformities? Do they have any missing hands, missing limbs? And if you start that at concept, or even if you start it here, then that can bring you into a whole new dimension of role-playing and thinking about, well, how is their deformity affected them? I touched on this one in my first Dan's Rants videos when I was talking about selling, which is true. The DM does need to sell for you on all of your stuff, but there's a lot that you can do. So definitely think about the 3 to 5 things that are going to come out in your roleplay, things that will make your roleplay more interesting, more original, and more identifiable. You, even from first session, because I know first session's hard, and I don't tend to judge the other players around my table until like the second, third session, because, you know, first session you're just sort of fitting into the skin of that new character, and it can be very difficult to get all that you wanted to get out of that character the first session, because you're going to forget things. I know for me, sometimes I'll just forget a personality trait that I've thought of for the character, and then I might do something terribly out of character. I mean, not terribly out of character, it's not like I'll ever play a pacifist character and then have them, like, murder a baby in the first session, but like little things that might be out of character. Like religious characters are very difficult because you need to think about how much do they preach, how much zealotry do they have, and how much reverence do they have. So if you want to play a character with a lot of reverence, then they won't be going like, oh, you need to look at the glory of whatever god all the time. And sometimes when you're just starting first session, you might fuck up because that's like one of just the fact that they worship their god is one of the first traits that'll come out to your head whenever you begin a roleplay interaction. So think about that. The next one, this one's going to be a little more useful and a little more concise and not as abstract as the second one, which is run through practice situations with your character in roleplay. This will help you, one, nail down your voice if you want to do a voice. A good way of doing this is like what Fistful of Dice did with the interview with a character. You don't have to record that, but just do that to yourself. Do that to your character. Interview them. But also, you know, run through certain situations. The ones that I like, ones that are very applicable to just about every single role-playing game you'll ever play. Buying a drink at the tavern or bar. Taverns and bars, it doesn't matter what setting you're playing, you're gonna be in some taverns and bars. It just doesn't. That's gonna happen. You're gonna do that in real life unless you don't drink and don't like having fun. So taverns and bars are constant, they're prolific, they're everywhere. So think about how your character would buy a drink. Would they go up to the tavern, very sulky, mysterious, maybe sit on the end, maybe hunch themselves forward. Maybe they won't be so immediate about asking for the drink. Maybe they'll just sit there and stew until the bartender comes up and asks them. Maybe they're really not outgoing, and they won't ask for the drink. They'll wait to be asked. Think about that. Are they the type to come to the bar immediately and put their arm around the most beautiful woman or beautiful man on the bar and you're like, 2 drinks? Are they that type of guy? You know, you gotta. This is a very simple scenario that can really help to define your character in social interaction, which is one of the most important things. You might have the most baller concept in the world, but if their social interactions are boring or do not reflect all of their characterization, then what's even the point? You haven't been able to get that awesome characterization you thought up in your head out. And that's what I was talking about with the traits, but I guess I just didn't articulate it as well as I'd like to. Other really good scenarios to practice. When your character is approached for a job, like a quest, or a job, or a hit contract, or a drug deal, or whatever your game's quest system is. Or, you know, if I can even use that term, but it's an easy, applicable term. How do they react? Are they super professional? Are they maybe a little confused because they don't do a lot of this kind of work? Are they like, what are you asking? I'm not picking up what you're laying down. Maybe they're really awkward about asking for money, or maybe they are really, really fucking greedy, and the first thing out of their mouth is like, "How much does it pay?" Or maybe they're very, very pathetic, and they're like constantly inquiring about the danger of the mission while trying to not make it look like they are a coward. Maybe that's their thing. Maybe they're trying to subtly interject, well, are there going to be this enemy there? Is this going to be here? Because then I can get this sword from my house that's really good at killing those things. But in the back of their head, they're like, oh, I really hope that thing isn't there. Like, little things. Think about that. Are they, if they're being approached for just idle chatter? Say they're at that bar they were buying a drink at 2 examples ago. Or 1 example ago. I'm reading my list wrong. And, so yeah, they're buying their drink, and then somebody just slides down the bar and is like, well, my father fought in the war 3 years ago. It was pretty weird. Like, just random bar chatter. How would they react? Would they be very off-put? Would they be like, yeah, and like, are they timid around other people? Or maybe they're really aggressive and sullen. They'd be just like, you get the fuck away from me. Or they would try to engage that person in conversation. They might try to one-up that character's story, or, whatever, what have you. The wizard might try to teach them something. I don't know. Just really depends on your character, but think about that. How if they're just approached by a stranger, or for idle conversation, small talk, that thing that we do all the time at schools and in bus lines and whatever, the thing we do constantly. Just think about how your character would do small talk. The next one, and y'all might giggle, but sex. A lot of times in role-playing games, you'll get is there a bar wench in here? And there's like, the DM's like, yeah. And there's like, is she hot? Sure. I'm gonna roll to sleep with her. Or, think about how your character would approach somebody romantically, or if they were being approached. Say, if you're playing a really neurotic druid who does not go around people, they might be very confused, very off-put, because they probably don't have a general understanding of how it I mean, not how sex works, but how the whole casual repartee and interaction works. They might be a little weird about that. They might even just bluntly ask, like, are you talking about boning? If it's a prostitute or something. Because prostitutes, if you're hanging out in dirty-ass taverns, prostitute's going to happen. Same with dirty-ass bars. So yeah, that's one thing. And then the next one is think about how your character would act during negotiations. Be that, say your party is negotiating for a higher price on a contract with a duke. Or is your character the one who's going to respect the duke's end of the bargain and try to work your other party members down from trying to be so douchey to the duke and trying to be like, well, what if we do it for 100,000? Like, if your character gets driven crazy by this guy disrespecting a noble, say they're like a lawful good paladin, think about that. Are they the type that would barter down? Are they the type who wouldn't be confident enough to even try to barter down? That's a thing. That pisses me off. When low charisma characters are always trying to do social interaction, I mean, that's one thing if you want to play a character who has low charisma but is trying, but most people with really low charisma, and most people, if they ever do that, make yourself as an RPG character, and they assign themselves low charisma, it's usually because they're not very comfortable talking to people. And so why would their character even attempt to make a bluff check on this guy? He'd probably be quaking in his boots even just talking to him. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, think about trading, bartering, negotiating for your job, or talking to the king or whatever. And also think about interrogation, because interrogation scenes are going to happen. You're going to find that there's going to be that guy who survives the battle, and you need him alive to tell you where the big bad is or whatever. How does your character react to interrogation? Is he fucking venomous and awful, and the guy, putting on some stuck in the middle with you and cutting off their ears and won't see it, like, are they that guy? Are they the guy who immediately tries to be diplomatic and is like, you're gonna die unless you talked with us, and you might as well? Or are they even the type who'd be like, say, buddy, if you give us all this information, we can promise you will not die. All of your equipment will be returned to you along with some of your fellows, but we will need to take a percentage. I'm sure you understand. And we will let you take one of these mares and go back to town. You know, is your character that like guy who's going to set up all the advantages of talking to them before they get into the interrogation? Are they the type who's just gonna be like, listen up, you fucking scumbag, I'm gonna cut off all of your fucking fingers one at a time, I'm gonna break them off by the joints, and then they take out their dagger and they're like, I'm gonna jam this into your knuckle and pry your finger out of its socket if you do not tell me who you're working for? Are they that type of guy? I mean, yes, that can be handled with just a boring-ass intimidate roll, but you want to get into that. If you want to play that bastard, you gotta play that bastard. So, think about that. Think about all that shit. It's all really good. And then the third one, and this one's very important, or the fourth one, sorry, I'm dumb. This is very important, is being asked personal questions. Is your character very uncomfortable talking about themselves? Do they have a secret that they're trying to hide? Are other people maybe wise to that secret? Perhaps your character was like maybe in your campaign setting, dragons don't breathe fire, and they have like a very unique bite pattern that everybody knows because dragons are very prolific in symbology. And your character has like a scar that looks exactly like a dragon bite on his arm, but he doesn't want to tell the story. You know. That's something to think about, being asked personal questions. If your character has like a mission or goal, if they're out for revenge, if they're out to write the most beautiful sonnet in the world, how do they react if people get near that point with inquiry? Are they going to come out and be like, yes, I'm on a quest to rid these horrid lands from the undead masses, and you should join me, and you should revere Paylor, and yada yada yada. Or are they going to be the type like, fuck off, you piece of shit, you don't need to know fuck all about me or I'll bust your head in with a fucking bottle, I don't even want to talk to you, you fucking wrench, now get the fuck out of here before I bust up your fucking arse with my boot. Are they that type of guy? All of that's very important to think about. And honing your roleplay in this way, running through these sample situations, will help to make you better acclimated to your character when you finally sit down with your dice and your character sheet at the table or over Skype to think about, to do your character, to do your roleplay. And this will help out. It's like practicing. It's like hitting a pitching machine. And it'll work out. So, I'm going to wrap it up now because we are over the 22-minute mark. And I didn't even want this video to go over like 15. But I'm a piece of shit who rambles. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. If it hasn't been, please comment. Please comment, guys. I'm not for that whole like, comment, subscribe this video because we're desperate and blah 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 blah. Truth is, we're not. We didn't make this channel, or at least I didn't get involved with this channel in order to be rich and YouTube famous, rolling in that internet money's no. But I came because I wanted to, put out some content. I wanted to stir some discussions, and I wanted to get better as a person, a role player, and everything. So if you disagree with anything I said in this video, please, to Christ, tell me. Just comment it. Come on, boy. If you like the video, comment. If you would like to hear more on the topic, please let it be known. And if anyone was dissatisfied with this video, if I get enough things like please elaborate, I might go back on this topic in the future. Because like I said in the beginning, I think that starting your character is something that's not covered in the RPG videos that I've seen on the internet, and I think it's something that's very important, especially to new players. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and yeah, I'm done.